Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis for 9th July 2026. This is Shyam Kaggod here, taking up today's analysis. Now, before I start, please confirm that I'm audible and visible for everyone. Those present in the session, please give the confirmation. Done. Thanks a lot. So, in today's session, I've taken just 12 articles. In addition to these particular 12 articles, I will also be adding 2 more articles from the Business Standard in order to make the discussion comprehensive and help you answer the questions in the prelims as well as mains examination. If you're liking the initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join the Unacademy IAS YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I start with the first important article, here is a very important announcement. And this is concerning all the civil services aspirants, whether you are a beginner or you're a legend already, or you have traveled half of the distance and you're yet to cover remaining half. The best way to evaluate whether your preparation is on the right track is to keep on attempting multiple tests. In order to assist your preparation, on the 12th July, Unacademy is conducting Civil Services Championship Test. The test shall be conducted in 2 slots, 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. Whether you're a beginner or you are, right, let's say already covered certain amount of the syllabus, etc., doesn't matter. Enroll for the test and attempt the test according to your convenience. And if you score very good number of marks, you also stand a chance to win multiple rewards. Let's start the discussion. First important article, how India withstood the crisis in West Asia. In the last couple of months, there has been a lot of discussion regarding the crisis that is happening in West Asia and the impact of that crisis on Indian economy. All of us, irrespective of whether we are purchasing crude oil, whether we are purchasing petrol, diesel, we are purchasing fertilizer, etc., etc. All of us have been affected by the crisis in West Asia. Now, this article discusses what kind of reforms and measures were implemented by the government and what are the important lessons to carry forward whenever there's a crisis in the future. Because the point is, the crisis in West Asia, or for that matter, the crisis in rest of the world, it is not the first time that it is having an impact on Indian economy. For example, the crude oil prices itself. The crude oil prices in the past as well have skyrocketed, have had an impact on Indian economy as well as the global market. The recession that took place in USA back in the year 2008, which is very famously referred to as the global financial crisis, has had an impact on Indian economy. So crisis or the disturbances or disruptions in the global market keep on happening. But government of India has to implement certain reforms well before these kind of disruptions will happen so that the impact can be contained. So what kind of impact has been felt on the Indian economy because of the crisis in the West Asia? It is more associated with the crisis associated with energy. The disruptions in terms of the LNG imports were caused. Disruptions in terms of crude oil imports were also caused. And not just this, because the disruption was not associated with one region and it spread to other regions as well. The transportation of many of these goods were also affected. Imports into India, other types of goods were also affected. Everybody's okay? Now, this article discusses one-sided viewpoint. That is, the writer simply says the government of India has done very well. The reforms worked out very well for Indian economy, etc., etc. But you, as a civil services aspirant, you should know both the sides of the coin. So I'll give you what are the important points in favor of the government policies that have been discussed here. At the same point of time, what are the important concerns that the government should focus upon. In the context of the performance of government of India, the writer simply says it has done very well in terms of controlling the energy prices. In fact, that has been the talking point of multiple ministers, multiple news outlets, etc. as well. That is, when you compare India with other countries, The rise in the crude oil prices has hurt all the other countries. But the impact on the common man in terms of increase in the price of the retail prices of the petrol and diesel, these have been much lower compared to rest of the world. In case of India, the petrol prices have been hiked or increased by the government of India just by over 7%. When you compare this particular rise with other countries, in case of UK, the petrol prices were increased by 19%. In USA, these rose by 45%, 50% in case of Pakistan, etc. So when you compare the rise in the petrol and diesel prices in India with other countries, the impact on the common man has been much minimal. But please understand this in any given point of time. That is when the crude oil prices in the international market go up, and if the prices in the retail market are not increased by the same percentage or the same proportion, it will always have a cost. What was the cost here? The oil marketing companies, the OMCs, oil marketing companies, if the prices are not increased by the same proportion, the oil marketing companies will have to bear under recoveries. Under recoveries. What's the basic idea of an under recovery? I am purchasing the raw material and the price of the raw material has increased by 5 rupees. If I do not transfer this particular cost to the consumer, then I am not going to recover this particular 5 rupees increase in the price. Some of the price I will have to bear. So the oil marketing companies which supply petrol, which supply diesel, which supply LPGs to the households, there was a constraint on their recoveries because the government initially did not allow the prices to increase. Only after certain time period the prices were allowed to be increased, right? So there was under recovery, which was a problem in terms of finances for these oil marketing companies. In addition to this, there is also a discussion associated with how the government of India has been able to overcome these kind of issues. That is, how the government policies were effectively implemented. I know a lot of you will be thinking, but sir, all of these particular points are in support of government of India. Have patience. I'll tell you the other side of the argument as well. Because I personally do not agree with a lot of these particular points given in the article, but nevertheless, let's discuss both the viewpoints. What are the important lessons that the government of India has taken away from these particular crises? One, the government has already developed a certain strategic relationships, and these particular relationships have helped government to ensure energy security during this particular crisis. They're talking about the kind of relation that we have with the countries in the Middle East, and the way many of the ships that were supposed to come to India, the passage was allowed by many countries. The amount of assistance in terms of supply agreements for the LNG, etc., the crude oil that was supplied to India during the crisis, all of this has been mentioned. So whatever is the strategic relationship that we have with these particular countries, which has been developed over a period of time, it has not been developed overnight, it has been developed over a period of time. This has actually helped us in ensuring there is a continuous supply of the products. Second, India has also silently developed and ensured there is a diversified portfolio of crude oil suppliers. Historically, if you see, there was concentration of the crude oil suppliers in India. That is, from few of the countries we used to receive lot of crude oil. And when there is a disruption in the global market, and especially if you're concentrated in terms of suppliers in the Middle East or West Asia, and if there's a disruption there, there will be a direct impact on crude oil prices in India. So what has the government of India done? It has started sourcing crude oil from Russia. It has increased, by the way. It has started again sourcing the crude oil from Venezuela. It has signed agreement with USA, etc. It has helped diversify the suppliers of crude oil. That's a second very important point. Third very important point is the crisis has vindicated the planning that has been done by the government of India. Of course, the writer talks about the government policies where there is a diversification in terms of E20 promotion, E20 promotion, or reduction in the form of, let's say, crude oil imports by focusing more and more on harnessing solar energy, focusing on, right, other forms of energy production, etc., etc. Right. So the decades of energy planning also has helped in reducing the impact of the crisis. And finally, the coordination and the cooperation that existed between multiple departments, multiple, right, let's say the ministries under the government of India. All these ministries, generally there is an argument, they work following a silos approach. You must have come across the term silo approach. Silo means the policy making, implementation, deliberations, etc. of the ministries and the departments are done independent of each other. But rather than having a silo-based approach, during the West Asia crisis, there was a whole government approach. Different ministries came together and had a policy making, or basically ensured that the impact will be minimized. Now, these are the points which are given in the article. Are there any concerning factors which you should understand beyond the article? I have given two articles from Business Standard. Listen to me very carefully. Like I said earlier, the article mainly talks about good about government of India. The policy making was good, the impact on the people was minimized, right? The approach, the strategic relations that have been developed have been very helpful, etc., etc. But having said so, are there any concerning factors? Are there any concerns that we should focus on? Is there any area where reforms have been implemented, but the reforms have not yielded results? I'll just give you one example here. That is the development of strategic reserves. Development of strategic reserves. I've given, like I said, two articles from the Business Standard. Now, don't worry, I'll tell you what are the important points. In fact, don't worry, I've already pasted the picture of the notes that I've done on both of these particular articles. The importance is this. Like I said, the fluctuation in the crude oil prices in the international market is not a new thing. Sudden rise in the crude oil prices hurting India is also not a new thing. The famous episode in the context of Indian economy where crude oil prices had a huge impact led to crisis was 1991, very famously referred to as a BOP crisis in India. So there have been multiple episodes in the past where we have experienced the kind of devastation or the kind of impact that the crude oil prices will have on Indian economy. In order to minimize, the government of India set up an authority, ISPRL. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of this authority at least 100 times in the last 2 months. ISPRL, a special purpose vehicle, has been set up. And this entity is supposed to develop and maintain strategic petroleum reserves. Strategic petroleum reserves. Right now, the reserves that have been developed in India are sufficient to maintain just 9.5 days of requirements. I'm talking about the reserves held by ISPRL, by the way. It is sufficient to maintain the requirement or supply for 9.5 days. What is the global standard? The global standard is, according to the recommendation of International Energy Agency, the standard is 90 days. Minimum 90 days of requirements must be held in the form of reserves. Any example where 90 or more than 90 days are held? Best example is China, where they hold a reserve of at least 90 days. Another example is Japan, where the reserves that the country is holding is more than 200 days. And it's not that we have not done any kind of, let's say, a movement, or we have not allocated funds for development of reserves, etc., etc. In fact, there are two very important points that I want you to take away from these articles. One, the government of India allocated funds for the development of reserves for maintaining strategic reserves in the previous financial years. For example, in the financial year 26, the government of India allocated around 5,876 crore rupees for maintaining strategic reserves, for building the strategic reserves. Out of the 5,876 crores, hardly around 1,040 crore was actually utilized. Hardly around 1,040 crores. And that is the precise reason for the financial year 27, the government of India has reduced the allocation to just 200 crore rupees. Just 200 crore rupees. And second important factor that or point that I want to take away is, apart from allocation, the government of India 8 years ago announced expansion of strategic reserves to be developed at Chandikol. Is it okay? In Odisha, the government of India announced 7 years ago 8,700 crore rupees project to expand the strategic petroleum reserve storage facility in Odisha. So far, no development has taken place. The problem is, in case of India, as it happens many of the times, there is a problem with land acquisition. And because there is a problem with land acquisition, the state government is yet to transfer the land to the government of India for the development of the project. It's been more than 7 years, we have not developed this particular project. Funds were allocated, development has not happened. So I hope you understand the point of discussion here. It's not that we have not implemented reforms. Yes. It's not that we have not allocated funds. Yes, we have allocated. But the problem has been in terms of execution or implementation. Done. So the government of India has to be praised for some of the measures that they have undertaken, but at the same point of time, it has to be criticized for the lack of implementation of these kind of projects, which if implemented could have reduced the impact of the West Asian crisis on energy scenario in India. Everybody is okay with the discussion? Do let me know in the chat section. Now, based on this, here is a descriptive question for you to practice mains answer writing. Energy security is no longer only an economic concern, but a strategic imperative for India. Discuss in light of recent disruptions in West Asia and its impact on India. 15 marker question for 250 words. And please take up this particular homework as well. I want you people to read these two articles. This is one article and this is a second article. Both of them are from Business Standard. The only reason why I have given you these two articles is to read, make notes, and then compare with the notes that I have done and given the screenshot here. This is how you keep on widening the horizon to read, understand, and also make notes. Done. Let me go forward, and here is a question, MCQ. Please solve it and tell me the correct answer very quickly. The only salt cavern proposed for crude oil reserves in India is at what place? Is at what place? Is it at Padur in Karnataka? Is it at Nellore in Andhra Pradesh, Chandikol in Odisha, or Bikaner in Rajasthan? Which is that particular place where the only salt cavern, this is a keyword by the way, please read the question carefully. The keyword is salt cavern which has been proposed. Most of you have given the option C. My dear, option D is the right one. Bikaner. Bikaner, right? In Bikaner, that is in the state of Rajasthan, the first salt cavern has been proposed for development of crude oil strategic reserves. What about other places? These are simply rock caverns. The fourth one is a salt cavern, first one proposed in India, and the remaining three, or in fact, of the remaining three, there is no reserve in Nellore, by the way. There is no reserve in the Nellore. In Padur, yes. In Chandikol, yes. In Bikaner, yes, proposed. Right option is option D. Let me go forward now. Caste census. There is an editorial associated with the caste census. Yesterday, Sarmad sir has discussed in detail about the caste census. Just an update regarding what is given in the editorial. The second phase of the census 2027, the preparation for that or rehearsal for that has already begun. The preparation or the rehearsal is being conducted in 16 states and union territories. And in this particular rehearsal stage, there is one concept that has come into a lot of discussion. That is open column for getting the data regarding the caste. Open column approach for collecting the caste data. Now, what is this open column approach? Back in the year 2011, there was socio-economic caste census, and during that also the government followed the concept of open column approach. The basic idea is simple. Let's say you want to provide the details regarding to which caste and the subcaste you belong. Generally what happens is, in the form, let's say there are already check boxes. There are already check boxes, right? And the caste and the subcaste is provided. You basically tick on these particular appropriate boxes to which caste and subcaste you belong. Of course, I'm telling you, if it is in the form of a paper, if it is generally digitally conducted, which is the practice right now, in the handheld device itself, that is a mobile device, there is already preloaded data. Preloaded in the sense, the list of all the caste as well as the subcaste is already there. The enumerator, that is the one who is collecting the data from you, will ask you and enter the data accordingly. This is basically the concept of how caste is collected or how caste census data is collected. But under the concept of open column, what generally happens is, if you want to provide the details regarding your caste and subcaste, there is no pre-approved list. You will provide your information to whichever caste you belong. You will basically tell the enumerator, and the enumerator will collect it and write it down or will enter it in the digital form. Everybody is okay? This is basically the idea of a open column approach to collect the caste census data. Now, the editorial simply says this is not the right approach if you want to collect the caste census. This is not the right approach. Why? Take the previous example of socio-economic caste census of 2011. There also the same approach was followed. And as a result of this, the total number of caste that was recorded, was more than 46 lakh in number. More than 46 lakh in number. This was very, very high, and the government of India and the Supreme Court of India has to basically tell the Supreme Court this data is not at all usable because there is so many mistakes. The people, rather than providing the data regarding the caste and subcaste, many people recorded their surnames. Many people recorded, right, let's say with spelling mistake, many of these particular caste and subcaste. As a result of this, the data that was collected was very, very, right, large in number and was not usable at all. And we need to collect the caste data, by the way. Reason behind that is very simple. If the government of India wants to provide welfare, if the government of India wants to provide certain schemes, if the government of India wants to ensure that only certain people will get the benefit of, right, let's say initiatives of the government, first and foremost, you need to have the right data. You need to have the right data, be it population data, be it data for, right, let's say population within the certain caste, etc. And in various cases, the courts also have asked for the correct data from the government. And that is the precise reason the government is collecting the caste data, but the editorial simply says this is not the right approach to collect the caste census data. So is there a solution to this? There is a solution. In 2022 and 2023, Bihar has conducted a caste census. The state of Bihar conducted a caste census. And during this particular process, what I told you earlier, the same procedure was followed. That is, basically in the tablet or in the digital tools which were given to them, there was a concept of a drop-down menu. Drop-down means a pre-approved list of caste and subcaste was already uploaded, and you basically had to choose you belong to which caste as well as the subcaste. So the editorial is of the opinion that that is a right approach to get the data rather than going for this kind of a cumbersome process, which might again lead to a faulty collection of data, and the whole exercise is conducted and the result cannot be utilized further in the policy making. Done? Everybody is okay? So this is a discussion, just an update regarding whatever is happening regarding the population census. Again, I'm saying yesterday a detailed discussion has been done by Sarman sir. Let's move on to the next article. States' contribution to the welfare schemes. States contribute disproportionately more to welfare schemes. There have been multiple points of disagreement between the center as well as the states. One point of differentiation or one point of friction within the financial areas itself has been the contribution for the implementation of the schemes. Many of the states argue that the central government announces centrally sponsored schemes. Centrally sponsored schemes. Under the centrally sponsored scheme, the expenditure is divided between the center as well as the states. The problem is how much is the contribution to be done by the states is also decided by the center. It is also decided by the center. And many of the times, if the states do not agree, if the states are already having a financial constraint, then the states may not get access to the funding for this particular scheme from the central government. I'll just give you one example in the current affairs so that you also understand VBG Ramji. Correct? VBG Ramji. Under the earlier Manrega scheme, 100% of the expenditure was to be incurred by the central government. Again, a qualifier here, a hashtag for payment of wages. For payment of wages. Whereas under the VBG Ramji, the total expenditure shall be shared between the center as well as the states. Multiple states, including today's newspaper article, Himachal Pradesh, have raised concern regarding the increasing expenditure. So what is the data? What does the data actually say? Just focus on the data that is relevant because a lot of information has been provided in the article. According to me, these are the 4 to 5 points which are relevant from the article. First one, there is no doubt in the fact that the central government plus state government for the implementation of lot of social welfare measures under healthcare, education, etc. has increased over a period of time. The absolute expenditure has increased over a period of time. According to the data from the Finance Commission reports, the 16th Finance Commission report itself, the state governments have spent more than 4 lakh crore rupees unconditional cash transfers under many of the welfare schemes. This is point number one. Point number two, what about the center plus state government expenditure for all these particular schemes? For example, implementation of school education programs, public health care, right, Manrega, etc. Now, when you take this particular data, the total expenditure stands over 24 lakh crore rupees. Over 24 lakh crore rupees. That is more than 6% of GDP. More than 6% of GDP. But when you dissect this particular data further, out of 24 lakh, how much is from the center, how much is from the state? In such case, essentially you will see the central government expenditure is very, very less, 1.89% of GDP. 1.89% of GDP. And this is a concern. Concern in simple terms. The government is collecting more and more revenue. When you compare the revenue collection between the center as well as the states put together, the center collects huge chunk of revenue. When you talk about the total expenditure incurred by the center as well as the states spend much, much higher compared to the central government. Right? So, this is basically the cause of concern that has been raised in the article here. And one more very important point that has been mentioned is, when you talk about the total expenditure as a percentage of GDP, right, as a percentage of GDP, that is the tax to GDP ratio for India has been increasing. It has been increasing. But the central government expenditure as a percentage of GDP under social welfare has almost become stable, has almost stagnated. It has almost stagnated. And when you compare India's expenditure with other countries, similar countries, India's expenditure in these particular social welfare programs is much, much lower compared to the peer countries. So, these are the 4 to 5 points that are relevant for your examination from this very big article. Everybody is okay with the discussion? Here is an MCQ. Please solve the MCQ and tell me what is the correct answer. What is the correct answer? Consider the following statements regarding direct benefit transfer. It covers only the centrally sponsored schemes. It covers only the schemes where cash benefit is transferred into the bank accounts of the beneficiaries. What is the correct answer? Do let me know. Brunda says none. Anushka Singh D. Aksharkar B. Okay, B. Okay, let's start. B and D, right? So these are the two options which have been given so far. Okay, it covers only the centrally sponsored schemes. This is incorrect. The direct benefit transfer, please understand, covers both the centrally sponsored as well as central sector scheme. More than 300 schemes are covered under the DBT. Okay. It covers only the schemes where cash benefit is transferred into the bank account. Again, this is incorrect. Whether you are getting the benefit in the form of a cash or in the in the form of a kind, doesn't matter, right? Both of them will be covered under this. So 1 and 2 are incorrect. Right option will be option D, none of the above. Then everybody is okay with the discussion so far? Okay, let's go forward. What is the right to be forgotten? One more very big article. What is the right to be forgotten? Okay, what are the important points? Let's understand one by one. First and foremost, what is the meaning of the term right to be forgotten? Of course, yes. On a lighter note, I don't have to tell you the concept of right something to be forgotten, because the moment I discuss something in economics in the morning lecture, by afternoon you will simply say, sir, right to be forgotten is enshrined in the fundamental rights of India. So I will forget whatever you have taught in the economic classes in the morning. It's a different debate altogether. But the concept of right to be forgotten is simple. It simply means it is your right to have certain information that is associated with you to be removed, erased, or de-indexed from the public digital environment. Is it okay? Very simple idea. The right to be forgotten simply is your right to get your information, something related to your information, to be erased or de-indexed from the public digital environment. What is the meaning of it? Let's say there is a particular person A. This person was, right, let's say falsely implicated, imagine in a dowry harassment or in a eve teasing case, etc. Now, whenever you type the name of the person, what the Google will basically give you the information regarding the person is the most searched information that would be associated with the cases that have been filed against this person. Even though it might have happened that over a period of time, the court would have ruled in the favor of this person. The court would have said this person has been falsely implicated in the case, etc., etc. The problem is, because the system has been developed in such a way, servers behave or the algorithm behaves in such a way that most of these negative news associated with the person will be thrown up in the top of the search page. So the problem is, you might not have done or committed anything wrong here. But whenever your name is searched online, whenever somebody will try to find out something related to you, anything that is wrong will be thrown out first, and the people will have certain preconceived notions, a negative character associated with you. So this person automatically wants this information to be erased, or this person wants the information to be de-indexed. De-indexed basically means ensure that this information is removed from the library of the server, so that even if the people search, this will not pop up in the in the first part of the page itself. So that is basically the idea of right to be forgotten. Now, this idea of a right to be forgotten was enshrined with order or with the judgment of Supreme Court of India, right? That is very famously known as Puttaswamy versus Union of India 2017 judgment, under which the Supreme Court held that right to privacy is a fundamental right. Right to privacy is a fundamental right. And because you are talking about the right to privacy, what about right to informational privacy? That also is considered as a fundamental right. But over a period of time, many high courts regarding the right to be forgotten, many high courts have had a different viewpoints associated with this. Very recently, the Delhi High Court in the Lakshveer Singh Yadav versus Union of India in the month of May has issued an order. Of course, this particular order, right, has been issued by Delhi High Court. Right? So understand this. The Delhi High Court the order basically has certain very important points. First one, if somebody wants the right to be information to be exercised, that is the right to privacy, not the right to information, right to privacy, that is their informational privacy to be exercised, there is always a debate. That is, in case of, let's say, judicial cases, on one side we say the judicial conduct should be transparent, the cases hearing, etc., the order issued by the judiciary, etc., all of this should be available in the public domain so that people will have confidence that judiciary is doing the right work. But at the same point of time, if all of this information is laid out in the public, and because people keep on searching and the Google will keep on throwing up this kind of information, what if the person's name is maligned? The person is characterized as evil over a period of time, and that nature or that characterization will keep on following the person throughout the lifetime. Whether they change the job, whether they change the place, doesn't matter. That characterization will simply follow them. So there is always a debate. Should we ensure transparency by ensuring all of this information is available online, or we have to take care of the privacy, informational privacy of the individual as well? So in that particular debate, the High Court has ordered that retention must have a legitimate purpose. That is, the public interest should override the interest of informational privacy of the person. Only in that particular case we can, right, that is the public interest, if it is much bigger, we should focus on the public now, interest of the public is more important for us. Only in that case the privacy, informational privacy is right. No, informational privacy cannot be given the importance or the priority, the names shall be displayed. Second, the harm to privacy must be balanced against public interest. And the third, even in such cases, let's say the decision is names of the individuals should not be listed. Let's say the order, the proceedings of the courts are reported, order copies are published, etc. In such cases, what should be done? Can we simply delete the order copy altogether? Shall we remove everything from the website? That will be again the idea of public interest itself. So the High Court simply says, in such cases, try to mask, try to hide the names of the people involved in the cases. You cannot basically remove all the documents. Let's use least intrusive means, masking the names instead of deleting the entire judgment copy from the internet. So these are the part of the order that has been issued by the High Court, and the High Court has given the order to, right, let's say these particular participants or the stakeholders to correct the legal databases in the next 2 weeks. Done? Everybody is okay? So these are certain very important points in the context of what is the right to be forgotten. But at the same point of time, this kind of an order very difficult to be implemented. There are challenges here. What are the challenges? What generally happens is, when these kind of news is reported, when this kind of a news is reported that a person is, right, let's say alleged to be involved in, right, let's say a rape case, a person has been accused of, right, asking for a dowry, etc., etc. These kind of news spreads very fast. People share it with each other. That kind of a news is reported on multiple, right, websites, multiple, right, let's say social, the databases, etc. So very difficult to ensure that in every, right, let's say media outlet or every database, etc., the name is masked or removed. That becomes very challenging. And the second one is, there is DPDP Act right now. Under the DPDP Act, there is a need to have a data protection board. The government so far has not given complete authority, complete rules have not been notified. If this kind of a board is set up, the reforms or let's say the guidelines which have been issued by the High Court will become easier to be implemented. Because in such a case, first I will approach, let's say the service providers, Google, etc., or websites. I'll ask them to mask the name or take out this particular information, take down this information, etc. If they deny, then rather than simply running to the court, I can go to the data protection board. That particular rules are associated with this. rules have not yet been completely notified by the government of India. So these are some of the very important points associated with the article here. Everyone is okay? Can I move on to the next article? USA Iran MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, more like a memorandum of misunderstanding. What has happened? In the last couple of days, the peace that was established, right, the precarious peace that was established in the West Asia, now there is a destabilization all over again. Very recently, the president of USA has threatened Iran with more attacks. He has threatened that more attacks will be conducted and Kharg Island will be overtaken by USA. All the infrastructure will be destroyed. Denuclearization is the main goal which will be conducted now. And he basically says there is no talks might continue, but he doesn't have any kind of faith on the right, let's say, leaders in Iran now. What has happened? Very simple. Couple of days ago, some of the vessels which were carrying cargo, right, through the Strait of Hormuz, there was attack. There was attack on this particular cargo. Although the Iranian side says that they have no hand in this particular attack, because this cargo was attacked. Now these ships were attacked. There was an attack conducted by the USA on Iran. Under the memorandum of understanding which was arrived at, which gave a time period for negotiations to take place so that a better deal can be made, so that the peace can be long lasting in the region and the trade, other relations, etc. can be revived in the region. Now it has basically come under, right, let's say, concern. And the concern is already reflective. It is already reflective. Lot of the stocks or lot of the stock markets have taken a hit yesterday. Right, stock markets such as Sensex has already taken a hit. Crude oil prices have already started increasing. Right, so if this kind of, right, let's say, the friction that is taking place right now, if it is not stopped, if the attacks and counter attacks will continue, then basically get ready for the same things that we have experienced in the last 100 plus days. We are going to go back to whatever has happened in the last 100 plus days. So in that particular context, what are the other important points? Iran is basically worried that USA might have signed this particular memorandum of understanding for temporary peace. Why? USA was pressurized, or USA within the domestic economy as well, the government was facing a concern. The midterm elections are around the corner. The crude oil prices started to hover upwards. The inflation rate in the USA started hovering upwards. So the concern is Iran thinks that, or Iran's concern is that USA might have signed this particular MOU to have a peace for short term. And when this particular, right, let's say, agreement will come into force, that is MOU will come into force, the crude oil supply in the global market will suddenly increase. All the countries are worried that the friction might break out again. All these countries will have to start storing more and more reserves. And once the global supply of crude oil is restored, USA might come back to basically attacking Iran again. So these are some of the very important points that are discussed, right, in the article as well as other sources as well in the context of USA-Iran situation right now. Okay, next, replacing Manrega with VBG Ramji would impose a strain on Himachal Pradesh. Now this is nothing new, just an update. The government of India earlier notified replacing Manrega with VBG Ramji. Multiple states already have raised a concern that under VBG Ramji, their expenditure would be ballooning. Their expenditure would increase, which would be putting a lot of strain on the finances of the state government. Already many of the states, for example, the state of Kerala has come out, or Keralam has come out with white paper on the state finances. Tamil Nadu also has come out with the white paper on the state finances. What is common thread amongst all of these particular states? The interest burden on the states is high. The debt of the state governments have ballooned. And of course, you cannot deny the fact that a lot of policies which were implemented or which have been implemented by the state governments are not fiscally prudent. These are, in simple words, to borrow the word of the Prime Minister of India, these are basically part of the Revdi culture. And the state governments are a culprit in that, are a culprit. Whenever the elections are there, they have kept on spending excessively, promised excessively to provide the freebies. As a result of this, many states, including Himachal Pradesh, their finances are under a strain. And during that particular situation, now the government has announced withdrawal of Manrega and implementation of VBG Ramji. Under VBG Ramji, the expenditure from the state government is expected to increase, and that will put further strain on the finances. Done. So this is an update. Already we have discussed VBG Ramji, Manrega earlier. Extensively we have discussed in the Hindu newspaper analysis itself. Next, the World Health Organization has flagged in a report the concerns regarding cancer treatment. Now, please understand, according to this particular report, and these are the important points, the WHO has come out with a report titled the Global Status Report on Cancer 2026. Memorize the name of the report. Please memorize the name of the report. According to this particular report, after the other diseases, that is cardiovascular diseases, for example, heart attacks, etc. So, after cardiovascular diseases, cancer is the major contributors in terms of disease burden in the global market. And this particular disease burden is not associated with the developed countries. The disease burden is also very high in the developing as well as underdeveloped countries. According to the report, annually there are more than 20 million cases of cancer and more than 10 million deaths because of cancer itself. But what this particular report further states is that the burden is there in developing countries as well as developed countries. But the problem is the access to medication, the access to preventive healthcare facilities, etc. It is much higher in developed countries compared to developing countries. The argument is very simple. Whether you get access to the healthcare, right, for treatment of cancer, it should not be dependent on where you are born, and how much you are earning. Because the cancer treatment incurs a huge amount of expenses. The report also states that the impact of cancer is not just on the health of the patient, it is beyond the health of the patient. That is, it will impose a huge burden financially, especially in certain countries, where the cancer treatment availability is very less. Even if it is available, it is very costly. In order to get the treatment done, they will have to move out and go to other countries for healthcare treatment, etc., etc. It will have a huge burden on the health as well as the finances of the household. In addition to this, the report also says there is another area of the discussion or another facet to the discussion, that is, these particular people generally face social exclusion. The people who get cancer, these are generally seen differently in the society. They are socially excluded in the society. And not just this, even the people who are providing care to the patients, right, they also face a huge amount of a strain, including having to provide the services and not being paid for it, and social isolation as well. Because the people will basically isolate or basically stay away from these people, thinking that if they let's say talk to them, if they see them, if they let's say go near them, these people will also contract with the cancer like this. So these are some of the very important points regarding the impact of the cancer on the patient as well as the people surrounding the patient, which has been reported in the Global Status Report of Cancer 2026 by World Health Organization. Then everybody is okay with this? Next article, SEBI amends registration fee rule for FPI. Simple article, don't overcomplicate it. The basic information is the SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India. This is the market regulator, by the way. SEBI has made certain changes regarding the registration process or registration fees for the FPIs. Please understand, nothing else is changing. What is simply changing is the fees that the FPIs will pay to the SEBI will pay to the SEBI, the fees method has been changed. What do I mean by method? According to SEBI's classification, FPIs are registered under two categories. Category 1 FPI and Category 2 FPI. For example, we have sovereign wealth funds under Category 1. We have central banks under Category 1. We have lot of financial institutions under Category 2. Until now, when these entities were registering with the SEBI for investing in India, when these were registering with SEBI, the payment was done in the form of dollars. The payment for registration was done in dollars. Now, instead of asking them to pay in terms of dollars, the payment shall be done in rupee terms. In rupee terms. This is the only change that has been done in terms of registration application for the FPIs. Is everybody okay? What is the logic of this? SEBI says because it was always mentioned in terms of dollars, there was a lot of uncertainty, lot of, right, let's say volatility in terms of fees that was collected by SEBI, right? So SEBI simply says by basically mandating that if FPIs want to be registered in India, they will have to make a payment in terms of rupees. One, we are promoting utilization of rupee, and second, now there is certainty. Now there is guarantee regarding how much money will be collected by SEBI whenever they provide registration services to the FPIs. Done? So these are certain important changes. Now here is a MCQ. Please solve the MCQ and tell me the correct answer very quickly. Consider the following statements regarding foreign portfolio investments. These are regulated by SEBI. These are allowed to invest only in the central government bonds but not state government bonds. Ceteris paribus, higher FPI inflows will help in controlling rupee depreciation and add to forex reserves. What's the correct answer? Quickly. What is the correct answer? Brundas says option B. Others? Option B. Only two? Let's start. These are regulated by SEBI. Yes, the statement is correct. Just now I've told you this. These are allowed to invest only in the central government bonds but not in the state government bonds. This is incorrect. These are allowed to invest in central government as well as the state government bonds. Third one, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus basically means, and those who have read NCERT class 12th book, they will know this. Ceteris paribus basically means if all the other factors remain constant, unchanged. Higher FPI inflows will help in controlling rupee depreciation. Yes, if FPIs, that is in the form of, let's say, generally counted in the form of dollars, by the way, if dollars will come into India, supply of dollars will keep on increasing and the rupee demand keeps on increasing. That will help control the depreciation of Indian rupee and also add to forex reserves. Yes, third statement is correct. Right option for the question will be option B. Now, couple of more articles, just factual information. Listen to me very carefully. There is one report that has been published by Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education. In addition to this, I want you people, I'll come back to the slide, don't worry. I want you people to have a look at one more type of index published by Ministry of Education. Suddenly, this can be asked in the preliminary examination. It has not been covered in the Hindu newspaper, by the way. Right? So, first one, AISHE Report. This stands for All India Survey on Higher Education. This is a report which has been published by Education Ministry. Now, within this particular report, there is a lot of information, lot of data has been provided regarding enrollment of, right, the female, or let's say the children into the schools, into the high schools, etc., etc. Focus should not be on the number because from one year to the next year, numbers will keep on changing, by the way. Numbers will keep on changing. But the total student enrollment ratio, this is one parameter. If you want to remember, my suggestion, have a look at it. The total enrollment ratio is very, very high. It has increased earlier, that is in the year 2013, 2014, 2014 and 2015, the gross enrollment ratio was 3.42 crore. And in the year 22 and 23 and 24, The gross enrollment ratio, the latest data shows 4.5 crore. So from 3 plus crore to 4.5 crore, there is a huge increase in the gross enrollment ratio. And not just this, there is also one more index which has been published in the report, Gender Parity Index, GPI, Gender Parity Index. The Gender Parity Index basically measures what has been the gross enrollment of the, let's say the girls divided by the gross enrollment of boys. This is one kind of indicator that is published or generally recommended by UNESCO, by the way. And this is basically used to measure whether the enrollment of girls is increasing at a faster pace compared to boys, at a lesser pace compared to boys, etc. And the latest report states that the gross enrollment ratio in the form of gender parity index has been much, much higher, that is more than 1. And when it is more than 1, and it has remained more than 1 for 7 consecutive years now. And what is the importance of it? If it is more than 1, you're simply measuring the enrollment ratio for the females, that is girls, divided by boys. So when it is more than 1, it simply means the numerator is a greater number. Numerator is a greater number. That is basically the importance of the gender parity index remaining more than 1 for 7 consecutive years. Everybody is okay? Now, another very important index I want you people to have a look at is the Performance Grading Index. Performance Grading Index. The Performance Grading Index, PGI, is published by Ministry of Education. Important, by the way, Ministry of Education. The Performance Grading Index is published for the states as well as union territories, and it is also published now for districts. It is also published now for districts. And what kind of parameters are used by the Ministry of Education to grade these institutes, to provide the index, etc. All of this information has been provided, and this was there in the PIB. According to the PIB notification, for providing the performance grading for the states and union territories, the weightage of 1000 points is taken, and there are totally 70 indicators. Total 70 indicators, and the total weightage is 1000. And for the districts, instead of 1000 points, in case of districts now 600 points are taken, and the total indicators which are chosen is same, that is 70 indicators. So according to these particular parameters, the rating is done, and the index numbers are provided at the district level as well as for the state level. Done? Okay. Next, one portal that is there in the newspaper, please make a note of this, that is CITES. Nothing more important in the article, by the way. I hope all of you have gone through the new EPF scheme. Yes or no, please do let me know in the chat section. There is a separate video that I've done on the new EPF scheme 2026. Lot of important changes have been done by the government, relevant to some extent relevant for the civil services exams. If you read to see that, please have a look at it. Following that kind of a reform, now there is a launch of a new portal, CITES, Centralized IT Enabled Services, CITES. Again, please understand, this is not the CITES that you come across in the ecology and environment. That's a different CITES. This is a different CITES. This refers to a new project which has been implemented by the EPF. Under this, there is centralization of information. Very simple. Sir, what is the importance of the portal? Until now, before the CITES was implemented, this project was implemented, the data of the subscribers was available in a fragmented form. Right now, it has been centralized. All the 30 plus crores of subscribers can get access to all the relevant information, through one portal itself. That is the importance of CITES here. Done? Everybody is okay? Somebody is asking, sir, Hindi में नहीं पढ़ाया जाता है क्या Unacademy में? My dear, if I speak Hindi, you will run away, right? You will not be able to understand my Hindi, right? Okay, last article for today. Trump blasts NATO for rejecting efforts to claim Greenland. Very recently, the NATO summit was held at Ankara, that is in Turkey. Trump basically attended the meeting and has given multiple statements against NATO itself. One of the grievances that the Trump has against NATO is one regarding funding. Funding in the sense defense expenditure. Defense expenditure. So that is one concern that Donald Trump has been raising again and again. And it's not that NATO members, 32 members, it's not that the NATO members have not done anything in order to increase their funding or defense expenditure. They have increased their defense expenditure and that data is still available. But in either case, he still has a grievance that they do not spend sufficient money to provide for their defense itself. Second very important concern, or let's say the grievance that Mr. Donald Trump has against NATO is they did not come to aid of USA in Iran. They did not come in support of USA in Iran. And that has been the one grievance, that one complaint, right? His argument is when you are in trouble, USA will come to your rescue. But when we are in trouble, when we wanted, not even in trouble, he will never accept that USA was in trouble. He'll simply say when we wanted you in the form of aerial support, in the form of access to your bases in the West Asia, etc. Many countries said, no, we will not give you access, especially countries such as Spain. That's the reason now he's criticizing Spain as well. Right. The third very important grievance that Mr. Donald Trump has raised against NATO is basically now acquiring Greenland. That is, he is arguing that, right, the members of NATO should not have any problem. Right, even the Danish Prime Minister should not have any problem. USA requires Greenland more compared to, right, any other country. And in order to maintain stability, global peace, etc., etc., he wants to acquire, right, Denmark. For some time, right, some time ago, he was basically talking about acquiring Denmark through force. After that, he started focusing on Iran. Now he has again returned to Denmark. So these are some of the important points that you need to basically update regarding the NATO summit. Done? Right. So these are the important articles, concepts, as well as right, other relevant information that I wanted to discuss with you people, focusing on the Hindu news analysis or the articles which have appeared in today's daily edition of Hindu newspaper. If you have liked the session, do not forget to hit the like button. If you are yet to join the Unacademy IAS YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.